So, along with global engagement, there's a topic that I would feel like I was doing a disservice if I didn't address, and that's the white savior complex. And so the idea of the white savior complex is sort of this perception that um, in folks, particularly people of color, in poverty, either in developing countries, in the United States, wherever, that the thing that allows them to get out of poverty is white folks saving them. And so you see iterations or accusations of this in things like adoptions from abroad or things like that. The best example I can give you, and this is of course anecdotal, and so I mentioned in a previous video about how I went to Haiti, and then we developed these science kits along with my 8th grade science class. The area I went to in Haiti was a smaller community, not all that far from Port-au-Prince, which is the capital. And after the earthquake in 2010, many aid organizations came in there. Many. And some that were already there, and some that were new came in. And so one of the ones that I mentioned that I helped rebuild a clinic. That clinic had been there for some years, and those folks had already been there. Their building was destroyed, and so they were actually building elsewhere, trying to build a new one, getting a new complex going with a guest house for volunteers, a clinic, whatever. At the time I was there, the clinic and the waiting room were operating out of giant tents, and we were building the guest house. There are a couple... it's a little bit difficult to call them houses, but houses that were on the grounds for the doctor and his wife, and the nurse. I think there were a couple nurses. Anyway, in that area, as soon as the earthquake happened, their clinic had been in a concrete building, and masonry does not do well with earthquakes, and so they were in a pinch of trying to find a place to host their clinic, to house it, and trying to find something immediate, because there's obviously a great need for healthcare in the wake of an earthquake that ultimately killed about 250,000 people. And so there was a mansion, a really big house, not far from where they were, that was available for rent. And so when they went and looked at it, and they felt like the number of bedrooms and stuff they could make work for them, they could use them as exam rooms, waiting rooms. It would have enough rooms to service housing, that sort of thing. They felt like they could make it work. And if I remember the figures correctly, they were told 12,000 Haitian dollars per month for rent. And at that time, I think it was about 8 Haitian dollars to 1 US dollar. So they went back to their board that was located in the US, said, here's the situation, we think we can make it work. And the board said, yeah, go ahead, do it, pay for it. And so when they went back in between this, between they get them visiting, getting told here's what it costs to rent, and them going back to say, yes, we will take it, a very large aid organization came in, and a very prominent one that I'll forgo their name, and started writing very big checks. And so there was a humongous amount of inflation. And so when they went back, they said, yes, we'll take it. They said, the owner said, actually, the rent has gone up. It's now 12,000 US dollars per month. That organization that came in and was writing big checks had caused so much inflation, it had priced people out of the area, caused a ton of problems. The thing with a white savior complex is that it is a different form of racism. It's a form of saying that these people, I do not believe, are capable of helping themselves. And although the intention of wanting to help them might be fine, there's that underlying belief that they can't help themselves, and so it's up to me. So one of my suggestions in how to avoid this is to make sure that you are very aware of the region's history and culture, and perhaps what's led to the situation that's there. So in Haiti, in particular, I really read up on the history. So Philippe Girard has a great, fairly concise history. For a history of a country, it's fairly concise. That gives a lot of context. And Jonathan Katz is a wonderful journalist and wrote this wonderful book, The Big Trek That Went By, how the world came to save Haiti and left behind a disaster, that really talked about the nuance of these organizations that intended to help but ended up causing more problems. Because ultimately, if you get to, this country of Haiti has so much poverty, the point I wanted my students to realize is there's not a lot of poverty there because Haitians don't know how to help themselves. There's a lot of poverty there because it's a country that was systematically oppressed. As a French colony, it was exploited terribly. And then when the Haitians revolted and gained their independence, the United States, the closest large country to it, would not recognize it for many decades because, the revolution was 1804, I believe. Slaves overthrew their owners and formed their own country. The United States, at that point in our history, was not super keen about that idea or endorsing it. And so we, as a country, prevented Haiti from receiving legitimacy. And so those systematic issues that were caused by white colonial powers is what has led to a lot of the kind of the basis of that situation. And there's been ongoing struggle since then, and interventions, whether it's the U.S. that's removed dictators. Our military occupied Haiti for a while. And so it becomes a system, an opportunity to not just show that, we want to learn about other people or we want to help other people, but it lets us see how other people are impacted by decisions. And I think that's important to realize and something to be mindful of. By far, the best advice I can give if you're trying to avoid falling into a white savior complex or a trap is talk to folks on the ground, talk to folks who live there, who are there, and try to gain as much perspective from them as you can. So if you're saying, well, I don't really know that I understand this place well enough to really teach my students about it, communicate with them and talk to folks who are on the ground to try to get as much of a lens into their reality as you can. Never assume that you know enough about a place to just summarize it for someone else. Connect them to resources, connect them to other people, set up questions for your students to ask whatever other school or area that you're engaging with. But make sure that we enter it from a place of we want to form a relationship to work with and use their understanding and wisdom as something that we can gain from and that we will gain from this and learn from them, not just the other way around.